How's it going, everyone? Taki here. For the last 2 weeks, I've been testing out one of the best mini handhelds on the market. In this video, I'm going to show you all you need to know about the new Miyoo Mini. Let's start off with an unboxing. As you can see, we have a Pac-Man logo on the side, which is common for this brand. On the back, we have some details about this product and an advertised 4 hours of battery life. We will see how accurate that is later on. Now let's slide off the cover to open the box inside. The Miyoo comes inside a branded plastic sleeve, which is another custom touch that Miyoo does on some of their products. Let's set that aside for now. Under the Mini is an instruction manual with information telling you how to use the device, an SD card reader, and a charging cable. Let's finally take the Mini out of its plastic wrapper. I have to say, those small bezels are definitely a look. This new device reminds me of the BitBoy that I reviewed a few years ago, but the screen is bigger and the entire device is slightly smaller. The factory behind the Mini is one of the most prolific manufacturers in this market. They have made small devices like this in the past, like the BitBoy and the Pocket Go 1. I haven't made a secret of the fact that I don't tend to care that much for these small devices for the simple fact that they have ridiculous screen tearing problems. I've been waiting for 2 years for someone to make something compact like this without any tearing at all. I was about to write off this device completely until I found out that it does not have any screen tearing. Screen tearing is usually downplayed on products like these because they are cheap, but it ruins the experience for me. Some products are just too garbage, even if they are cheap. I'm very happy to say that this device does not have any tearing. So the Miyoo Mini is kind of an interesting device that came out of nowhere. This is advertised as being able to play PS1, CPS 1 through 3, FBA, GBA, GBC, GB, SNES, NES, and more. Most of these are claimed to run on other Mini devices to varying degrees of success, so we will have to verify these claims for ourselves. This device also comes with an interesting processor that we haven't seen in a handheld before. The Mini is powered by a SigmaStar SSD202D CPU with 2 Cortex-A7 cores clocked at 1.2 GHz. It has a 2D GPU, which basically means that we are going to have to use our CPU to brute force software rendering for 3D applications. We have 128 megabytes of DDR3 memory included in our SoC, 32 gigabytes of SD card storage, a 1900 milliamp hour battery, a 2.8-inch IPS display with a resolution of 640 by 480, and our operating system is based on Lynx. All of this comes at the asking price of around $50 at the time of making this video. The Mini comes in 2 colors. In the interest of full disclosure, I bought the device on the right for around $42 locally, and the one on the left was given to me for this review. All of the opinions in this video are my own, and no one in the company has seen this video before it was posted here for all of you. In this first section, I want to go over the build quality of the device. For many, the screen is going to be the main highlight of this device, but there are a lot of other touches to like here. Here's the Miyoo Mini finally powered on. We will go over the software in just a moment, but I still want to take a look at the overall outlook. As you can see, we're at maximum brightness, which gives us plenty to work with. For now, let's sleep the device and look at the back. On the back, we have a Miyoo Mini sticker on the top. This is removable, so we might see a rebranded console, or at least this console is made to be rebranded if people place a big enough order. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to call this the Miyoo Mini because it was the first device to release using this shell. You'll see that we have 4 shoulder buttons. These are not that necessary on a device like this, but the design works well, and they were able to keep some of the charm of the original product that inspired this one. The buttons themselves are very easy to use, with a nice satisfying click to them. We will take a look at them later in this video, but these are using rubber switches similar to the ones used for the shoulder buttons on the Switch Lite. If I'm holding the device like normal, I can easily get to both of these buttons, but I've changed around the mappings for L2 and R2 to function as L1 and R1 because they're easier to use. I use the other 2 buttons for functions inside RetroArch, like fast forward and load save state. Another important point that I want to go over is the case itself. The original BitBoy case had cheap feeling plastic. It got the job done, but this is at a different price point compared to the Mini. I mean, we're almost at double the original cost, so it is understandable. This new case, from the plastic that they used to the mold that it was made in, feels too good for this price. The case is robust and the colors in the shell are even without any imperfections. A big highlight is that we have a user replaceable battery. If I take off this cover, we can see our 1900 mAh battery with Miyoo branding. Hopefully we can get cheap access to more of these guys because it's killer to be able to swap these on the go for long trips instead of needing to worry about doing a full charge. I don't know how well this is going to come across on YouTube after the compression hits, but this case is very premium for how cheap they are selling this. It doesn't make any sense. Let's move on. On the top, we can see that we have a power button and 3 LEDs. If I turn the device on, you can see a green LED, and if I plug in a charging cable, we can see another LED to indicate charge status. A single press of this power button will sleep the device while it's on. On the bottom, we have a headphone jack, an SD card that holds your emulators and ROMs, and a Type-C charging port. This device also comes with a volume slider wheel on the left side. These are not that common on handhelds these days, but I always enjoy the retro touch when they are. Let's go over the front of the device. As you can see, we have a matte gray shell. It's not the same color as a real DMG, which is a shame. It still has retro vibes. On this color option, we also have a set of black and purple face buttons with screen printing on the shell. In the center, there's a menu button that has various functions depending on what you're doing. We have start and select all the way at the bottom, along with a mono speaker that can get fairly loud. Finally, we have a D-pad that we'll talk about more in a moment. Our D-pad and ABXY buttons are using conductive rubber, and the remaining buttons are using dome switches. The D-pad is surprisingly above average. It has good travel in all directions, and it is easy to pivot when you're playing fighting games. I spent most of my time testing this device on Street Fighter 3, and I was surprised at how usable this tiny D-pad is. It's even better than devices that are 3 to 4 times the cost of this handheld. It really doesn't make any sense to me how Miyoo was able to make this much improvement over their last device. The ABXY buttons are also decent with a reasonable amount of travel. One thing that I was a bit disappointed with is the fact that the start and select buttons are not made out of rubber. These are hard plastic, and it would have been a nice touch to finish off the look with rubber ones. In terms of ergonomics, this device has rounded edges on the back, which makes it easy to hold in your hand, as well as rounded edges on the front. There are no hard edges on the Mini, and it is small enough for one-handed or two-handed operation, depending on the game that you're playing. It's a double-edged sword, but the screen on the Mini is probably going to be the main reason why people consider this handheld after they see the performance of the chip. This is a 480p OCA panel with high brightness and decent color saturation. You will probably only use this device head-on, but the viewing angles are decent in all directions with minimal color distortion. You'll see more footage of the screen later in this video. Now let's look at the stock firmware. When the device boots up, you'll hear some menu music playing. Our UI is simple with only a few categories. We have recent, favorite, game, RetroArch, app, and settings. Let's start off at game and work our way over. Head into game and you'll see several icons for different systems. These are your standalone emulators, and we have things like NES, Arcade, GB, and GBA. If you punch into any of these systems, you'll see games, but I have removed most of them. With the exception of a few systems, these were filled with Chinese ROMs. If I head into Arcade, you can see a big list of games. We can scroll through the list with the D-pad, or we can use the back buttons to skip pages. If we press right on the D-pad, we can see some box arts. I hope in the future we get different layouts for this UI with custom firmware, because we don't have a lot of options for customization here. Now, let's load a game and check the in-game functions. If you press the menu button, you'll have a small context menu on the left side of your screen. You can go back, save, load, and go into a native menu. If I save, you can see the screenshot in the load menu. If I make a second save state, my load menu will show both of the save state screenshots. The native menu changes depending on the standalone emulator that you're using. In this case, we have a reskin of the RetroArch menu. If we go into the RetroArch menu, we have a different UI with systems that will all run on RetroArch cores. If you went into these systems, you'd also see the ROMs that you have placed on your SD card. The full RetroArch menu is available to you, but the language is set to Chinese by default. It is easy to change this back to English if you need to change some settings. I've already gone ahead and customized most of this device on my personal device. If we head into game again, I have now configured these standalone emulators to access different folders to improve organization in emulators that run multiple systems. Generally, I've configured all of the standalone emulators to use the best options. I've also changed the RetroArch menu to include several new systems. I didn't go over it before in the stock system, but we also have an app menu with very few options at this point. Hopefully we can get some more ports to this in the future. The settings menu has our brightness control, language selection, key remapping, background volume, sleep timer, factory reset, and device info. I'll be doing a follow-up video telling you how to update the firmware on your device to the reconfigured build that I'm using here. So the build quality on the device is decent, but how good are the emulation capabilities of this strange SoC? As I mentioned, I added several systems to the device beyond what is supported out of the box. You'll have good performance on CPS 1 through 3, as well as MAME on the included games. Neo Geo runs well, as does Neo Geo Pocket. Because our screen size is limited, we are going to use 4:3 scaling for all systems, even if that's not the native scaling the system is supposed to use. For most of these clips, I'm using RetroArch, but in a few cases, the standalone emulator provides better quality. I'll talk about that more when we get to the PS1 section. To make things easier for you, I've added timestamps for all of the systems that I'll be testing on this device. Feel free to skip around to the systems that you want to see the most. GBA is the first system that we get to that does not run well on other small handhelds like this. It was something that I was looking forward to testing immediately after I opened my package. For these tests, we are using the GP-SP core, but we have another core that we could choose from for compatibility on some games. The performance here is better than expected, given that we only have a 1.2 GHz processor, and it fully exceeded my expectations. Like GBA, SNES is another system that does not run well on other small devices without some big compromises. On my configured build, we have 3 SNES 9X cores to choose from. SNES 9X 2002 is usually the go-to for systems with this level of power, but I was surprised to see that 2005 also runs well. Even some heavier SNES games ran well with this core, and the games look amazing on this screen. We are going 2 for 3 so far with good performance on GBA and SNES, with the final system being PS1. Our processor is stronger than the one in the RG350, so I have the expectation that we will be able to run most games we throw at the Mini. We have 2 options for running PS1 games. We can use the standalone emulator or the RetroArch core. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. Let's use Bloody Roar 2 as an example. This is the standalone core running without frameskip. The system is a bit sluggish, even if it does run better than comparable devices. If we go into the settings and turn on auto frameskip, the performance increases, but we throw away a lot of frames. The good thing about the standalone emulators, at least at this point, is that they have better audio quality than RetroArch, so I try to use these whenever they can provide good performance. Occasionally, the standalone emulator will give you bad performance even if you turn on frameskip. In these cases, I default back to the RetroArch core for a smoother experience. The only problem is that we have minor audio stutters in RetroArch at this point due to incorrect VSync settings on the stock firmware. This is really the only flaw on this device at this point. Generally, the RetroArch core will give you superior performance over the standalone emulator, but the standalone emulator does not have any audio stuttering. I've put clips from both emulators in this section so you can hear the difference. I prefer to use the standalone PS1 emulator when I can get good performance with it.
Round 1. Fight!
Were big and strong like yours, I could... metal armor, those...
The primary competition for this device is the 280V. If you just put them side by side, the 280V has a much bulkier frame than the Mini. Yes, you can use it for one-handed operation, but it is not as comfortable to use as the Mini. This device also fits in smaller pockets much better. Even though I like both devices, I like that the Mini has more space under the D-pad and ABXY buttons. This gives you a better center of gravity and more space to position your fingers behind the device in relation to your thumbs. On the 280V, the situation is kind of awkward because we don't have a lot of space under the screen. This causes us to hold the device in ways that are not very comfortable or ergonomic. If we compare the screens on both devices, the Mini screen is much brighter with sharper pixels due to its higher pixel density. It lacks some of the contrast of the 280V, but the colors on the 280V can be quite harsh the closer we get to black. For one-handed use in RPGs or Pokemon games, the Mini is significantly easier to use than the 280V due to the larger area under the screen and the smaller space between the D-pad and ABXY buttons. Now for some battery life information. This device claims that it can run for 4 to 5 hours, which seems to be accurate depending on the brightness level and the games that you play. The system can boot without a battery, so we can get accurate power consumption data. At maximum brightness idling on the menu, we use 0.95 watts of power. This decreases to 0.7 watts on minimum brightness, which is the setting that you would probably use at night in bed. If we play a GB game at max brightness, we use 1 watt of power, which increases to a max of 1.4 watts of power if we played something like Bloody Roar 2 for the PS1. We have a 7.2 watt-hour battery, which means our battery life should be in the ballpark of 4 to 7 hours. So that's it for the Miyoo Mini. It's an above-average device with a reasonable price, all things considered. The screen in the Miyoo Mini comes from the dead screen stock of the BlackBerry Bold from 2011, so the only thing that Miyoo needs to do well is proper quality assurance checks at their factory. Assuming that you get a screen in your device that is similar in quality to the two that I have, you should have a good time. The only downside of this product is that the stock is so limited right now. I think Miyoo did not really understand the gem that they had on their hands and underestimated how good this product was. This would have made a killer retro gift this holiday season, but shipments are probably going to push out to January for those that were not lucky enough to snatch one of the first batch devices like I was. If you have any questions about this device, feel free to leave them down below and I'll get back to you. I'm going to do another video after this one on configuring the software, as well as showing people how to use my configured build. If you enjoyed this review, all I ask is that you consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like below this video. It really means a lot. Happy gaming, everyone. Taki out. The Mini is powered by a Sigma Star SSD202D CPU with 2 Cortex A75 core... Fuck, not A75. A big highlight is the fact that we have a removable